The Jak world is filled to the brim with various vehicles, and racing is probably the most popular sport, from zoomers to buggies to street races. But which vehicle is the fastest? Are professional cross-city demolition machine gonna come on top, or the little toys from Spargus gonna leave them in the dust? Perhaps Heaven might even undertake with their zoomers. Let's find it out. To figure out who is the fastest, we must do some measurements. All tests will be done on the original hardware the games came out on. This means the PS2. It is to ensure that the results won't be affected from performance or emulation shenanigans. I will use some clips from those versions, but majority of the background footage will be from a more recent version of this game. Now, with this out of the way, let's get into it. So, how will we go to measure every vehicle? We will just say this is fast? Of course no. We're going to do many conversions, and Jak himself will be the one who starts it all. An average human can run around 13 km per hour or 3.6 meters per second. Then, if we just choose a common path for our tests, we can make Jak travel it, time it, and then calculate the length of that path. Doing so, we can then take all the vehicles we want, do a few takes, take the average and then divide the length of the course with that average and boom, we got our speed. We can also time the speed of the turbo. We will need a smaller path, since, unlike Jak X, we don't have a continuous boost that can last 10 seconds in other games. Alright, we got our own method to get the results. I'll show you each vehicle, giving some info on how they cooperated with the tests, and show you the location I took them in. Comment below which one you think will be the fastest, and stick to the end to see if you guessed correctly. First off, the Precursor Legacy. Here we have two things we can actually test, the zoomer and flat. There will be also the airboat, but I can't really walk from Sandover to Miss Island to test it, so that one is out. And about walking, where we go to test? For the flat we have two spots to decide from, Snowy Mountain and the Swamp. Since the Swamp has many places to test it on, I decided to go there. And since I hate it myself, I decided to not go on an easy location like this dock, but to jump over this platform and do the tests here. Now, it isn't that big of a deal to get there with the flat, but I can't dismount if I'm not on the pod. This means, to get there, I needed to use a few boosted uppercuts. Took a bunch of tries, but I managed to get there, time everything and get out. The zoomer was a bit more tricky. Technically we have 5 stages, but 2 are in lava, 1 is completely in water, and 1 can't be accessed on foot. This leaves us with mountain paths. Now I needed to find a decent place to test on, and there are many, as it is all grass without clear straight lines. Though I managed to use this ramp, which you will use if you decided to go back with the zoomer from the Red Eco Sage hut. Easily managed to get all the things that I needed. I found also this cool red particle effect while doing some recording for the video. Anyway, there was only one thing that made testing out the zoomer a chore, which was getting there on foot and being blind like a lightning mole. I hit all the explosive, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Let's just move on to Jak 2. In the sequel the vehicle range increases, and a lot too. We have a good amount of zoomers to test, as well as the jet board, since it is a matter of going around Heaven, and depending on where, sometimes it is faster, or at least it feels like it. Since most of the things we can test are available in free roaming, it makes everything much easier. In fact, we can use this path, as it has a clear sign of where I can start the timer, while also having enough room for a wind-up to get acceleration out of the equation. By the way, I am not going to say the exact number just yet, as we will see the results at the end. This doesn't mean I won't take my time to show how bad the triple-seater is. Even without measurements, it's clear that the bikes are fast and the cars are slow. Fine. But they have more HP, which can be a good trade-off, especially for certain missions. The problem is this: the triple-seater has the same amount of HP as the two-seaters, while also being slower and harder to control. Literally, there is no benefit to this zoomer. It is the worst out of all of them, and there isn't even a mission where you need to take more than 1 passenger at a time. This means even its peculiarity of having an extra space is completely useless. And here I thought that my young self was smart to use this zoomer for the extra tankiness. This leads to another letdown actually. We only have 3 normal zoomers, as the 3 bikes have the same stats between them, and the same goes for the 2 double-seaters. I tried multiple times, but the difference between them is so small. We're talking about 0.02 seconds of difference between the bikes and the path I choose, which could be either an error on my side or perhaps that frame difference between start and finish. Still, it is so small that, for me, it means the developer just had the same statistic applied to the different models, either to save space or perhaps to not dive that deep in balancing. Well, after this news, we still have a few zoomers to take care of, the 2 Crimson Guards and the Racing Zoomer. Now, the KG ones were a pain to get the test done with. You start being shot down immediately, which is a real problem, as damage to the zoomer actually affects its performance. In the end, with a mix of luck and skill, you can evade being shot down, get to a test area and just full send it without hesitation. The problem came mostly with the bigger KG zoomer. Being slow, difficult to steer and big, you become an easy target. It's even worse than the triple-seater honestly. Because of it, you have to pray to the precursors to be able to get a good run on it. Also, I try to use the KG zoomers that sometimes spawn around. Super rare, but even then you start getting chased after a while. And after all that, the results were again a letdown. The KG bike has the same stats as the bike zoomer, and the heavy bigger zoomer has the same stats as the triple-seater, but it takes the crown for the worst zoomer out of all of them, for its worst handling and just incredible dimensions. I don't care if it has a gun, you can't control it or evade the enemy guards bashing into you and basically destroying you in 3 seconds. Well, instead for the racing zoomer things got interesting. You can't just walk on the same path that you will race on. You could try going around the track, kinda following the racetrack, but is it really the same? How can I tell I am timing the right spot? So here enters a trickery, returning to trying to get on the track. It is possible with the debug mode. Once activated, we can just ignore the barrier, get on the track and boom, let's walk on it. We will use the funnel racetrack as it possesses more than 1 point good for our test, with these convenient arrows and general spots. It wasn't super easy to test. I had to be fast since the other NPCs will come back in a matter of seconds. Speed was key, and after a few trials and errors I got what I needed to calculate. I was also able to test the turbo, and I will consider both turbo and non-turbo versions in the funnel charts. There is also another interesting thing to test. We do a race with arrow, and the zoomer doesn't act normal, at least it feels different. Could it be that it has the same stats as the racing zoomer? So I got to test, and it is faster than its normal brothers, but not as fast as the racing zoomer I tested. Perhaps that is the full speed of a normal bike zoomer, but Jak is a nice person and follows the speed limits normally. Very well, we tested a lot of zoomers and we have nothing left to try, so it is time to move on to Jak 3, where I did test again the zoomers. It was mostly to take away any doubts, but yeah, they are virtually the same. The only difference could be delegated again to framerate and such, but overall nothing changes for them. Though there is just one more zoomer in this game, the cargo zoomer, a bit interesting to test actually, as I had to run to my designated point without getting killed. A few tries, but I got my data. And with that done, we can move on to Spargus. Before going to the buggies though, I wanted to tackle something alive, the lizards. So our flat won't be alone on the chart. They were easy to test, nothing special I will say, except that the one we catch in the desert are way faster than the city tamed. Timing them was a bit hard, but I managed to use this path between this arc and the central cage. Got my time and I'm good to go. Alright, no more bird lizard watching, time to use some dangerous toys. For the spot I had a few options, either using the Dead Town path I used before or other similar path near there, as it has both good segments to test on and no enemies around. Others will be inside the volcanoes, but it is a bit difficult. The racetrack doesn't have long enough paths to test some of the vehicles, and the last and other available option was the bridge, going near the Marauder base. But even on the bridge, the Marauders still follow you, so there isn't much time available. In the end, I chose the same spot inside that town. It is reliable and has enough room to wind up to get max speed. So, some notes on each vehicle. The Tough Puppy is surprisingly fast, and actually possessed the longest lasting turbo out of all of the dune buggies. The Sand Shark is, as you would expect, not the fastest, but not the slowest. And while turboing, the Dune Hopper almost clears the gap, being neck to neck. And about gaps, the Dune Hopper jump boost mechanic is for sure faster, but testing it is so inconsistent that I can't put it in the list. The Gila Stomper is, spoiler alert, the slowest buggy and actually slower than the triple seat Zoomer. Even a Tough Puppy is faster by around 7 km per hour. No wonder it feels like an eternity when you come back from killing some metalheads in the nest. It does make that bridge section look good though. The Slam Dozer is weird. The base speed is faster than the Gila Stomper, by a tiny bit. The boost instead is a bit weaker if we consider going the normal distance without jumping. Like that, it is slower overall than the Gila, but it has a catch. The boost holds a lot of power. A jump boosting can propel you further than just boosting on the ground. But like the Dune Hopper, I can't make it consistent. So this means I'll consider the normal boost without jumping. Last but not least, the free unlockables. The Dust Demon is pretty fast, a Sand Shark on steroids, though grip isn't the best. The Heat Seeker instead is an interesting concept, really fast but has such poor grip that I had to waste 2 minutes each time to get a good run time. I would either accelerate too quickly and lose control, slightly touch the analog stick and in the wrong moment I lose control. I will reach max speed and lose control. That car is not safe to drive, I tell you that much. And in the end, the Desert Screamer, the ultimate mix between Heat Seeker and Dust Demon. Really fast, with a strange grip curve. When going slow, it is pretty grippy. At medium speed, it alternates between good grip and no grip at all. At high speed, it can hold pretty well, if you just make small adjustment. Not losing too much control, but steering too roughly makes you lose some speed, bringing you back to that medium speed grip, which is a 50-50 on starting a roll. We also have another buggy actually, the one used in the Flying Factory level. It was really easy to get testing done with, so not that big of a deal. Very well, we are on the final stretch now, Jak X. Before getting to this game, I already knew testing could go in one of these two ways. Easy or hard, it's this game choice. But what do I mean by that anyway? And how can we test it if Jak can't work in this game? For testing, we will use the Sand Shark. Likely Naughty Dog decided to port it in this game. It acts a little different, but we aren't looking for maneuverability, just speed. We can assume that the Sand Shark in Jak 3 and this one have the same speed. For the boost things change of course, but we will just retest it. Now, here comes the big question. Is it going to be easy and fast for me, or I will have to spend hours to test every vehicle? In this game you can upgrade the statistics of each vehicle and have little squares to indicate how many times we can do it. If we are lucky, those squares could be the same for each vehicle, like one square could indicate 10 km per hour to add over a base speed. So if a car has 7 squares, it means it can go up to theoretically 105 km per hour. With this in mind, I know how fast the Sand Shark is. I just divide its squares and find how much each of them amounts to. Then I can apply it to other cars. How can I be sure of this? Easy. I do all this conversion, all this calculation. And then I'll take 3 more vehicles to test them. One with the same amount of squares, one with more and one with less. And I'll test them without taking shortcuts. This means timing them with the Sand Shark where I want, finding how long it is and then running with the chosen ones. If the difference is around 1 to 2 km per hour, then I'll consider the square stuff true. If not, I have tons of footage to record in time. Unfortunately, what I found shocked me quite a lot. You see, I have been recording in 60 FPS this whole time, and when importing the video in my software I will look at this timeline and base my times on it. What is the problem with it, you might ask? While recording Jak and Daxter splits, I went into trial mode. As I was trying to figure out if the squares theory worked as intended, I had some trouble. I wanted to test the road blade, and sometimes I would get 1.59 seconds, other times 2 seconds. I can understand the difference, but this was too much. So I looked more in depth and decided to time it with the internal clock, and would you look at that, times were consistent. Basically, I was thinking that going around with the slider on my program I will get the milliseconds times from 0 to 99. Instead, it was giving me the frame counts from 0 to 59. And while doing the calculations, everything came out faster than what it truly was. So, now I had two choices. Either I redo every single measurement again at 100 FPS, or I can just record Jackass timer at 60 FPS and have it on the side. I can do the same thing I did until now with the same clicks, take the timer and calculate. I decided to go with this solution as I don't need to record everything again. Plus, I will have a common timer for every game in milliseconds, which is the most precise I can be and consistent. I'll also use it in all Jackass testing as, yeah, I could use the timer from the recording itself, but at this point I have a common theme for every prop. Why change it at the last? Well, what I was saying, oh yeah, the squares. So in the end I had to record everything. When testing max speed without turbo I did the measurements so many times that I lost count. That is because the Boomer, a 7 engine box, was the fastest out of all the vehicles in this game, while the Firebat, a 10 engine box, ranked around the mid. Things just weren't consistent at all, not even within the Eco Caps brackets. Things though changed as I went on to test the max speed with boost, and oh my, things got more and more interesting with each measurement. Since every vehicle works with the same boost and the description of the boost upgrade only mentions its duration, you will think that every vehicle has the same increasing speed. You wouldn't be more wrong. Each vehicle boost increases the speed in a different way compared to the others, and now the charts actually follow the path. The speed boxes actually consider the speed with boost implemented, as now they all made sense. Those who had 7 boxes had the same speed, those with 10 all the same speed, and a 6 engine box was slower than a 7, as things should be. Also, I tried to test Dark Eco Boost to see if it really did something to the turbo instead of just being a recolor, and it actually increases the speed. Now, it isn't a huge improvement, we are talking about a plus 2 km per hour, but it is the same for each vehicle, keeping everything on track. In the final charts I will be putting all the different versions, all engine, turbo and Dark Eco Boost. Very well, it took a while, but now we got everything. So the fastest usable vehicle with a top speed of 107 km per hour is the Desert Screamer. Clever Toy wins, or do they? In reality, the Desert Screamer, while boosting, is the second fastest overall vehicle. The truly fastest one is the Zoomer, if we can call it a Zoomer, from Jack-free Precursor Tunnels, with 117 km per hour. But here comes a question I place upon you. What do you consider a vehicle worth being in this list? Can this Precursor Zoomer truly be considered a usable vehicle? In the end, it is tied to just 2 missions. As many other vehicles I tested, since I could test them, I considered them. But should they be allowed? If we take away vehicles that can't be used in free roam and leave only those usable everywhere, we go from 40 total vehicles to just 33, as the following list. And take away another 15 if you want to extend this rule to Jackass, since there isn't a real free roam. This said, the objective of the video was to find the fastest vehicle out of the 4 main games, being tied to mission or not. If I can test it, I will put it in the video. And that is mainly why I didn't include the Lost Frontier, as first, the plane will have probably won, maybe one or two will have been slower than the Desert Screamer, and second, I had no way of truly calculating the full speed. I'll now show the various lists. First, the full max speed, so consider the vehicle turboing, second without turbo, and third with both the list and the normal turbo from X. Looking at the max stats, it's pretty interesting. Majority of the Sparkus vehicle take the first places. The Racing Zoomer shows itself being really fast compared to its similars, and Jak X takes the entire upper half of the positions. They are all similar in speed, which is good for balance. The Jetboard is slower than the Leopard Lizard, but Chicken lets you go around way faster, so it depends on how good you are with those tricks. Also, as I kinda foreshadowed before, the Triple Seat Zoomer is still faster than the Jetboard. Now, it depends on where you kinda need to go, but if the Triple Seat Zoomer is the closest one you have and you're probably in the port or places like those, you're just better off to get them and trade it off with something else as soon as possible. Hope you enjoyed the video. Did you guess correctly which vehicle was the fastest? I was rooting for my young self favorite, but didn't expect the Desert Screamer to actually come out near the top. I also had a lot of fun doing this video. Getting all these tests done took a while, but it sure was a blast. Except when I found out I was doing them wrong. Other than that, it was interesting to see how speed was handled in the various games, and just how fast or slow things are. Thank you for sticking until the very end. Leave a like and subscribe to see more videos in the future. Comment what interesting Jak facts you would like me to cover or analyze for the next time. I will also suggest to save this video as it might come in handy in a few weeks. Until then, see ya!